Hi, Heidi Fisher with Fisher Clark Dairy Farm. I'm just going to go over a few tips and tricks that I have for not only managing employees, but also for managing the health and the overall well-being of our calves. One of the things that we do is we meet on a monthly basis, and that we go over any changes or anything new that's been added to the barn, whether it's seasonal change, whether it's going over calf jackets, when to put them on, when to take them off, or if there's been any development, if we have to perhaps use a colostrum replacer because we're low on colostrum. These are things that we like to cover in that meeting, and then also just reminders if we notice something is kind of swerving from the procedural drift, we call that. But we meet on a monthly basis. We go over the scheduling right away. I have a requirement that you have to work one weekend a month, and when I say work a weekend, that means you cover a Friday night, a Saturday night, and a Sunday morning shift. And we all take turns, and then that way you kind of get 3 weekends off with only having to cover the one. You may have to cover a Saturday morning or a Sunday night shift, but as far as your Friday night and Saturday night planning goes, that's how it is. And we lay out our schedule right away. We talk about when we're going to wash the freshening pens, any vaccines, moving cattle, if we're going to wash the bull pens, and it kind of lays it out so that everybody knows in advance what's going on and there's no question. One of the apps that I really like to use here in the calf barn and has really helped us with efficiency and not being so reliant on trying to search down a drug bottle or a box that it came in for dosage or withholds is the Compendium of Veterinary Products. It's a really basic app. It's easy to use. It's free. Bayer puts it out. You can search by manufacturer or by product name. So this has been very helpful if we need to quickly reference, what is the withhold on a particular drug. We just pull up our app and we have it. One of the challenges at the end of each shift is keeping the team updated on how the calf's doing, if there were any new calves born, if there's a sick one that the next person should keep an eye on. We do have a whiteboard in our washroom that kind of gives up, how many bottles, which heifer or bull calves don't drink from the rack that will need assistance. But we use Facebook Messenger, and I created a calf barn group, and at the end of each shift you're required to do a brief update, just a couple sentences of how the calves were, if there are any new calves born, which rows did you bed. Bedding is very important here, and if there's any calves that you need to keep an eye on for the next shift, one that looked a little pokey, one that should have came up and drank, but you had to go into the pen to get her up, get her to the bucket. Those are the things that we like to note so that the next person knows exactly what's going on. To help keep the shift work a little more even and fair, and to make sure different tasks were getting completed in a timely fashion, we developed this chore chart up above. You can see that the golf cart needs to be washed. That's what we use for feeding calves, and by washing the golf cart, we don't mean the tank that the milk is in, but we mean like the outside of the tank and where we sit and the floor of it, because that can get pretty gross by the end of the week. The calves that have already been weaned, their buckets get washed once a week. Our fresh buckets get for surely washed on Wednesday evenings, but also additional nights of the week. The grain room and the fridge get swept and cleaned out. Floors, windows, and doors of our washroom get cleaned up. And then at the end on Saturday nights, we just have to pick an aisle and make sure that it's swept and cleaned up, or if there's any aisle that definitely needs attention over the others, that it gets it. So during the morning shift, that's the shift where all the treatment happens. The wean bands get done, the blue, green, or red bands get placed or removed. So in the morning, there's a little bit more heavier work as far as that goes. So to even it out, then these are the tasks that are required to be done by the night person, and then they have to initial off each night. If something wasn't done, then they're required to complete it on the next shift or the next person. They work it out amongst themselves. It's worked out really well. Another thing that we have is what we call a bedding chart, and we set it up for the month, and then at the end of each of your shift, you're supposed to log the pen numbers or the row that you bed. We found that bedding is not a favorite task of some employees, so this allows us to not only keep track of who's doing the bedding and who isn't, but it also lets the next person know when was the last time something was bed, so that they don't bed it perhaps too soon, and that they're covering the rows that need the attention versus what's easiest. Something also I like to do is about 1 to 2 times a year, I like to get my staff off the farm and at educational events. And I don't always expect them to come back with the next $1 million idea for our farm, but I have found that one, it shows them that I care about them and I care about their productivity here, and I want them to do well, and I want them to have all the knowledge and tools that they need to succeed. But also it gives them the affirmation of sometimes some of the things that we do and why we do them, and that it's kind of the industry standard, and it's why we want to invest a lot of time and energy into our calves. It's because what we do here totally impacts how they perform in the parlor.